Howdy, Ian with Soundzie here again, and I want to discuss what many talk about today as being a lack of quality, or possibly the top 40 or top 100 in the Billboard's charts as being of less quality, or a lot say junk. Not me. But I do realize that things have drastically taken a change over the past 20 years, and especially 30 and 40 years. Now, disclaimer, right now, Ian Billen likes top 40. I've always listened to it. I enjoy it. I take it for what it is. So I am not knocking top 40 or even the top 100 or today's music. I listen to everything from Taylor Swift and, Lady Gaga and Pink to, I'll even throw on something by Nelly or Jay-Z or Nas to Maroon 5, who I'm not crazy about, but I will listen to select things. So as far as the top 40 goes today, with hip-hop and dance music, I enjoy it. However, with that said, there is a change, a shift in the past 20 years and 30 and 40 years especially between the top 40 then and the top 40 now. And I'm going to give you 5 main reasons why. One, we live in a much more fast-paced world today. With media consumption, with song consumption, everything. We can go right to the internet now and get anything we want. Fast. So we live in a faster-paced environment. Now, you might say, well, what does this exactly have to do with music? Well, music is written now to deliver a catchy chorus or hook much faster or much quicker in a song than it was in the past. So songs now are built upon catchy beats, a catchy hook, and or chorus, and they get right to it. And the songs are purposely written this way now because the attention span of younger people, and even us, is much less than it used to be. We don't have the attention span. Therefore, the songs do not evolve or are written to evolve as they used to be. They're not written that way. I mean, such as like When Doves Cry by Prince. That song took a while to evolve. Or say Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones. Well, in the mid to late 80s, the long songs, which really kind of went away. And it's even gotten worse in the 90s and especially this millennium, because songs are built on a very catchy beat or melody and getting right to that catchy hook or chorus quicker now. So the perception is, geez, this song doesn't have much to it. It's just repetitive and it gets right to the point and it's over and over. Well, they're purposely written that way a lot of times today as opposed to the past. Now, reason number 2, there's electronic music incorporated in today's top 40 and top 100 much more than before. A lot of the music is just sampling or a drum machine or a computer. Now, whereas before you would actually need people or have people actually physically play those instruments, physically play those keyboards, physically play the synth, physically play all guitar parts. Well, now a lot of that is just digitally done in a DAW, a digital audio workstation, all right, or with MIDI. which is like a protocol for sending sound information to create some type of musical idea from one device to the next. It's not audio, it's not actual music, but it triggers something that plays music. So you have tons of MIDI, tons of digital instruments now, and you also have sampling now, out the wazoo, which means, people sample other people's work or drum beats and then they loop it. Well, before, it was mostly all people playing those parts. Well, that's drastically changed starting in the 80s and more in the 90s and especially now. So there's a perception where, hey, these people aren't exactly playing these instruments. They're just, buying a beat and then looping it or something like that, or producing music via MIDI where nobody's actually playing these instruments, or or synths or what have you, or keyboards or drums or whatever. Or so now there's a perception where not a lot of people are actually playing instruments anymore. That's not all my perception. I'm just giving it to you as why a lot of times the top 5 reasons, a lot of times people feel that the quality is not there in today's top 40 or, even top 100 as opposed to before. Now, the third reason is it's a hip-hop / pop-based world now. There's a ton of hip-hop that rules the top 40 and top 100 and pop. And there is a perception that maybe, and there's dance too, maybe that's not as hard or difficult to write as, say, someone actually sitting down with guitars, bass, instruments, drums, and actually creating a song that evolves, like, anything from, Dire Straits' Money for Nothing to, something now, which is just maybe a catchy hook, and based on a hip-hop beat. Now, I enjoy hip-hop. I enjoy pop. Again, I enjoy all those things. It's just a change. Things have just changed. And I'm just giving you the reasons why there's a lot of perception that today's top 40 and top 100 is not anywhere near the quality it used to be. Well, it's people making music in different ways is what's going on now. And there's other factors. So that's the third reason. It's a hip-hop / pop-based dominated market today, especially in North America. Hip-hop dominates the charts. And I like some hip-hop. And I like the top 40. I listen to it pretty frequently, But I will say this. Before, maybe in the 80s, 70s, 90s, I liked 3 out of 4 songs that I would entertain to go and buy. Maybe 4 out of 5 that I would at least buy and listen to. Now, it's maybe 1 out of every 3 or 4. Just saying. Okay, next reason is a lot of times there's multiple producers or writers to a song. Whereas before, it was basically just the songwriter and maybe a producer. Well, now there's multiple producers and often multiple songwriters on an album or song. And you might say, well, what does that have to do with it possibly being lesser quality? Wouldn't that be better quality? You have more people involved? Not all the time. Sometimes too many cooks spoils the soup. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case. I'm not saying that sometimes more producers is better, but that is a lot of the perception where there's too many hands involved and they just want to quickly get the material out and, streaming or played on the airwaves or available for download. Okay, so many more producers. Taylor Swift might have 4 different people writing a song with her. Whereas before, you would have just the songwriters in the group and maybe a producer helping out. You might have 4 people writing a song now and 2 to 3 producers on one track. So there's a perception where more cooks spoil the soup. I'm not saying that's always the case, but that's one of the reasons that's often brought up. Okay, now last but not least, speaking of speed, it's a very speedy production process now. It's a very speedy recording process. People make songs and record an entire song in 2 days now, sometimes 1 day. People have recorded entire albums in, a week and a half in a basement. Maybe like this. Or in a bedroom. The Black Eyed Peas did an entire album in a few weeks in someone's bedroom. And it sold well with digital audio workstations and computers and computer programs that can actually help you record the demo and sometimes even record the main tracks for the album. So it's a much speedier production. Whereas before, a band might work on pre-production and writing songs, or an artist might write songs for, say, 6 weeks, and then get to the studio and work 6 months, 8 months, a year, sometimes even more, a year on an album. Now, all that can be done in 6 weeks easy in certain situations. So it's a much, much faster recording and production environment today. And that bleeds into the main studios as well, not just the setup studios or the project studios in people's, bedrooms or basements. That faster production style has bled into the mainstream and major recording studios as well. Now, I'm not saying it's always a bad thing. Sometimes you want to get right down to it. Sometimes, though, you need more time to evolve and think about it and go over the songs. And that is really kind of taking a backseat today. So, the first reason that we talked about why top 40 has changed, the top 100 has changed, and why there's a perception now where the quality is nowhere near it used to be even 20 years ago, and especially 30 and 40. I'm not saying that's the case. But what I am saying is it definitely has changed. Just to recap, first reason, songs are written to get to that catchy hook or chorus much faster now. They're not written to evolve. So there's a perception where maybe the song is just much more simplistic, or materials much more simplistic now. The second reason is there's more electronics and digital instruments and samples versus people playing real instruments now. Okay, that's the second reason. Whereas before, you actually had to have the people there actually in the studio and playing. Third reason, it's a pop-based hip-hop dominated market. And sometimes, and I like pop, I like hip-hop. I've bought tons of it. I listen to it fairly frequently. I listen to the top 40 fairly frequently. I've went out and bought it many times, and I will continue. But there's a perception that pop and hip-hop a lot of times doesn't take quite the talent that, say, something like, The Who or the Beatles wrote, or even say something like Huey Lewis and the News from the 80s, who were actually playing most of their instruments versus samples and things like that, and drum machines and digital audio workstations and creating, buying beats and all that. But I realized the game has changed. Again, not saying it's better, not saying it's worse, but I am saying there is a change, and these are some of the reasons why. Another reason is there's multiple producers or songwriters now. A lot of hands are in the pie creating it, where it's not just a single artist waiting around and trying to come up with the best possible result. Well, now you have many songwriters on a song, and you also have a lot of times multiple producers. And sometimes this can make recordings sound a little bit too busy or rushed. Sometimes it might be better, but that's another reason why music has changed completely, especially the top 40 and top 100 from yesteryear, or even from 20, 30 years ago. And last, the number 5, again, is simply because it's a speedy, much more fast-paced recording environment now, and production environment. Albums are churned out, songs are churned out very fast now. They're not, a lot of times, not taking weeks and months to create an album, or weeks to make a song good. A lot of times it's written in a day or two with a couple producers and a songwriter. It's recorded in a day or 2 or 3. It's mixed in a night, and it's ready to go out there and stream, or available to be downloaded on iTunes or something like that. So a lot of times that changes the production style of music, the writing, and how it actually comes across, orally. So these are some of the reasons, 5, that the top 40 and top 100 has so much drastically changed. And I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's worse, although I will recognize that many, especially people over 35 or 40, feel it's not not up to the quality it used to be years ago. But I will continue to listen it. I will continue to listen to you, and I will continue to buy music because I like top 40. But I will admit this, I'm only interested in buying maybe one album or one song out of every 3 or 4 now, whereas before, 20, 25, 30 years ago and before, I would easily buy 3 out of 4, or at least listen to them. So, if you agree, great. If you don't agree, great. Look forward to your comments. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these type of subjects. And I'm Ian Billen. I'll see you next time.